Hi friends, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be doing the mid-year book tag or the mid-year freakout tag, depending on whose video you watch. Sometimes they have different names, but essentially what this is kind of like a mid-year wrap up without going through all of the books that I read. It just kind of hits some highlights. So I have a list of the mid-year book tag questions here, and I've pulled some of the books that I'm going to be talking about. Yeah, we're just gonna run through these questions real quick, talk about some of the highs and lows of reading so far this year, and see where this journey takes us. So go ahead and find a comfy seat, maybe get something nice and cozy and yummy to drink, and let's get started. Before we get into the actual questions, I'm just gonna run through some stats for this year. According to Fable, I have read 50 books this year and my average rating is a 3.9 star, which honestly is a little bit high. I consider anything in the 3-star range average, but considering my average rating is a 3.9, I think that's pretty good. And I have also read 17 romance books, 14 fantasy books, 9 young adult books, 8 historical fiction books, and 8 literary fiction books. So I'm pretty much on track to finish my reading goal by the end of the year, which is really exciting because I've been working really hard to try to stay on track with that. But on to the actual questions for this video. The first question is, what is the best book that you've read so far in 2025? And that one was a hard one to answer because although my average rating is a 3.9 star, I feel like the ones that I have rated 4.75 stars and above have been like really hard hitters and ones that I'm going to think about for a super long time. But after a lot of thought, one of the ones that I come back to the most is The Will of the Many by James Islington. This book is a epic fantasy book, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of Red Rising. At least in the beginning it gave Red Rising vibe, but with how complex the magic system, I say magic loosely because it's not actually magic, it's will. Technically they're using will, almost like the Force, kind of. It's complicated to explain, but that system is so complex and so intricate. It reminded me a lot of Mistborn and the way that that magic system works. Like that's the amount of complexity that it has. But the actual writing style and the development of the characters was so good. Like I continuously think about these characters, and also just the plot twist that is at the end of this book absolutely blew my mind and I loved it so much. I continuously think about it, and I have actually gone back and reread the end of that book like a couple times to try to understand further about the plot twist and like try to put the connections together in my mind. It's so good. If you have not read The Will of the Many, if you have not read anything by James Islington, I would highly recommend it. One of my favorite books so far this year. Again, it's hard to narrow it down, but we're gonna go with that one. The next question is, what is the best sequel that you have read this year? And that is by far the easiest question in this entire list, because the answer to that is, of course, Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is a prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy and it came out this year. This is Hamish's story. This might be the best book in the series, and I'm not just saying that because it's Hamish's story and we've all been dying for Hamish's story for a really, really long time. I actually think the way that she strings together Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Hunger Games in this novel is absolutely genius. She just has a way of writing characters that you really truly care about, even though you know terrible things are going to happen to them and you don't necessarily want to get attached to them. This is so good. This is so good. I highly recommend this book. If you have read the original Hunger Games series, please read this book. If you have not read the original Hunger Games series, please do not read this book first. But please read the series because it is absolutely spectacular. Okay, so the next question is, what is a new release that you haven't read yet but you want to? I had a couple of pretty anticipated releases this year. I don't even remember all of them. I haven't gotten to buy all of them yet, but one that I do own that is highly anticipated for me is Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life. I am not personally a diehard Emily Henry fan, but her books Happy Place and Funny Story are some of my top romances and top books that I have read. And so I'm anticipating this one to be highly rated for me as well. Now, from what I've heard, this is not as heavy on the romance and it is heavy on a little bit more of a general fiction kind of side, which honestly I'm not too mad at and I am intrigued by. So I'm like really excited to read this one, even though I know it's not going to give the same vibes as Happy Place and Funny Story. But I think knowing that going in is going to help temper my expectations so I have a greater chance of enjoying this book. Emily Henry is just a really fantastic author. She's really good at her craft. In every book that I've read by her, I can see the progression of her writing and her storytelling. So I'm excited to see where this book has taken her in her writing journey. Question number 4 is, what is the most anticipated release for the the second half of the year. Bear with me a little bit as I gush about James Islington a little bit more. My most anticipated release for the second half of the year is The Strength of the Few by James Islington. This is the sequel to The Will of the Many. So this is the book that is going to explain the plot twist to me and actually tell me like what actually happens, what it means, and how it works. And I'm so here for it. I'm so ready for it because I have absolutely no idea how he's going to spin this. I am so excited for this book. It comes out in November, I believe. And I am counting down the days when I tell you that this book I have been thinking about and anticipating since the second that I finished The Will of the Many in like January. I have not stopped thinking about what this book could possibly be, what could possibly happen, and how he's going to explain all this to us. I need to know what happens. I need to know. What was the biggest surprise of the year? Well, this one I actually had several answers for as well, but the one that I finally settled on was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This is a cozy fantasy by Heather Fawcett, and I went into this book thinking that it was just going to be okay, that I was going to like it, but I walked away from this book absolutely loving it. The whimsy in this book is unmatched. I absolutely love it, and I love the characters as well. Like Emily is so laser focused and so serious, and Wendell Brambleby is just so unserious, and they make the absolute perfect combo, and I love it so much. They bring out the absolute best and worst in one another, and it's hilarious, and I love it. I love this book so much. I love this series so much, and that is why she is displayed so beautifully right here, so all can see her face and see that she's amazing. What is your new favorite author, either debut or new to you? Do I dare say James Islington? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to say James Islington again. I'm not going to do that to you guys. So my other answer for this one is actually very similar to James Islington, and that is Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson definitely surprised me. I wasn't sure if I was going to go into his books and be overwhelmed by the kind of fantasy that he writes, or if I was going to go into it and be completely bored. But the truth of the matter is, I really enjoyed his writing style. I loved his magic system. It was so cool and so intricate. I love intricate magic systems, but you guys know this about me. That's not new information. But I also really liked his character development and how they kind of grew a little bit more naturally over time. They didn't go through like these really fast personal growth spurts where they grew like unrealistically fast. It was pretty slow and pretty steady, and I really enjoyed that about his characters. I'm currently on The Well of Ascension. It is on my July TBR, so hopefully I'll have time to get to it this month. But Brandon Sanderson was by far one of the biggest surprises as far as new authors that I loved, and also one of the more exciting ones because his backlog is so massive. Like I have years of reading material of Brandon Sanderson to catch up on, and to me that's really exciting. Okay, newest fictional crush. This is so far out of left field, like you are not going to see it coming. If I did have a fictional crush, these would be the two people, and I promise you you were not going to see this coming. Put your guesses in the comments below. I'll wait. For those of you who have known what I have read so far this year, you know that I've read these two books, but I promise you're not going to get it right. All right, are you ready? Put everything in the comments, put all your guesses in the comments. Okay, the first one is Captain Wentworth from Persuasion. I told you weren't going to see it coming. I told you. So why do I like Captain Wentworth from Persuasion? He was just so unrelentingly kind, forgiving, consistent, steady, well-mannered person in the entire world. For those of you who have read this book, I don't know if any of you are interested in reading Persuasion, but I really liked this story a lot. But for those of you who have read this book, you know the part of the book where it looks like he was going to not marry the person that you want him to marry. And the reason why, the way that this man was going to try to take care of and honor that person who he thought that he was going to have to marry instead of the person that he wanted to marry, and how he still would have been a good husband to her even though she was not the person that he wanted to marry. If that does not show the highest character of anyone you've ever read, then I don't know what does. He is just such a solid, such a good person. He is such a good person. You cannot outdo Captain Wentworth when it comes to just being a very genuinely good, kind person. It's not possible. So, with that being said, this is book boyfriend number 1. Now, I did say there were two. This one's definitely the highest one for sure because his character is unmatched. But as far as a book boyfriend that might be a little bit more unhinged, a little bit weirder, and a little bit crazier, I'm gonna have to go with Mark Watney from The Martian. Again, it's completely out of left field. I know. But let me explain. This man is hilarious and he is so dang smart. And it shows that he has a lot of discipline and a lot of drive to just get the things that he absolutely has to get done. This is a good man right here. He's a little crazy, but it's kind of fun. Anyway, moving on. This one's fun. Okay, fun. Fun is definitely not the right word here. You'll understand. Okay. What is a book that made you cry? You see why I said it's not fun, but it is fun because books that make you cry are the best. You see? Again, I have two answers for this one because kind of like the book boyfriends, like I love them both, but they made me cry for different reasons. So let me grab them both. So the two books that have made me cry the hardest this year are definitely Glow of the Everflame by Penn Cole and Happy Place by Emily Henry. But they made me cry for different reasons, and let me tell you why. This one made you cry because Harriet was crying. This one made you cry because the tension got to a point where like you just could not stand it anymore, and Harriet also couldn't stand it anymore. So when it gets to the place in this book where it's like the big confrontation and she is crying because she just cannot take it anymore, I felt that so deeply for her. And so this one made me cry with the character who was crying in the moment. But Glow, on the other hand, made me cry for a completely different reason. The thing that happens that made me cry in this book was absolutely devastating for her and for me as a reader. Like, I knew somewhere deep in my heart that this was probably going to happen eventually, but the way that it happened and how quickly it happened, I did not see coming. And like the amount of devastation that Penn puts onto this paper and makes you feel with the words that she put on the paper. Oh my gosh, it was devastating. It was so good though. I know that there's a lot of people out there who don't necessarily like sad books or books that make them cry. I am not one of those people. I personally believe, and I think you guys know this already, but if a book can make me cry, then that shows how much you have made me invested into the story and into the characters, and that just shows that you're so good at your craft as a writer, and I love it. I absolutely love it. There's nothing like a book that can get you so invested in a story that when something bad happens, you shed actual physical tears for people that don't exist. It's beautiful. I love it. We are over halfway through with these questions now, which, by the way, if you want a list of the questions that I used, I will put them down below in the description. Let's see, what's next? Okay, the next one is, what is a book that made you happy? Now, I do own this book, but I currently don't have it in my possession because I lent it out to someone to read. And that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is one of my favorite romance books, and it definitely doesn't have the same vibe as every other romance book that I love. This book has magical realism in it. It's set in New York City. It's just one of those books that is so sweet. Everything about it is just so sweet. It makes you into putty while you're reading it. Like, it is just, what do I say besides sweet? Do I say precious? It's not really like precious, but like everything about it just makes you melt. Again, it's hard to describe because usually I connect to books like Emily Henry or Ivy Jimenez where the characters have crazy depth. These people feel fictional, but you just like love them and you're just so attached to them. I love the writing in this book. I was so invested in this book. I was so invested into their love story. The whole premise of it just made me so happy. You're just gonna have to trust me on this. This is one of people's most favorite romances. It's a popular romance for a reason. I think that it is worth it. I think deserves its popularity, and it made me very happy. The next question is, what is the most beautiful book that you have bought or received this year? And that is a very simple question for me to answer because for Valentine's Day, my husband bought me this. It is a Chiltern edition of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is the outside. That's what the spine looks like, and then the back looks like this. The pages have gold, and the pages themselves are really thick, shiny, glossy paper. Look how shiny. I love these. These are the Chiltern Edition Classics. I'm currently collecting these. I own 4 thus far, and my plan is to eventually just have a whole shelf and just get all of the classics that they've ever published because these are gorgeous. Look at this. This is like raised. Everything is so shiny and all of these are tactile. I love these books so much. I love all of my Chiltern edition books. What books do you need to read by the end of this year? So as you guys know, I have a list that is my 25 books that I want to read in 2025. And I've actually been making really good progress on this list so far this year, but I still have a nice portion of the list left to go. This is what my spread looks like in my reading journal. So I'm just gonna go through. I think I pulled most of these. The ones that I do not own or I don't have with me right here in the section are This Is How You Lose a Time Worm, Surprised by Joy, and Dream Chasing. But the rest of the 25 and 2025 I have not read yet. I have right here, and we're just going to run through them real quick. Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is on my July TBR, so I'm definitely going to get to this one this month. Dance of Thieves by Mary Pearson. Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. And Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. Ooh, okay. The next one is a fun one. How many 5-star reads do you have so far this year? And the answer to that is 6. And we've already talked about some, so I'll just pull them real quick. The first one, which I do not have with me, I loaned it out to a friend, is obviously Funny Story by Emily Henry. We all know it. We all love it. Moving on. The next one is The Martian by Andy Weir. In the video where I read this, I said I gave it like a 4.5 or 4.75 stars. No, this is a 5-star. After not being able to stop thinking about it for about a month now, it's moving up to my 5-star list. Then of course we have Sunrise on the Reaping, Onyx Storm, and also Spark of the Everflame and Glow of the Everflame. Also, look at the difference in the size of these books. This one is so thin and this one is so chunky. You can't really tell on the camera, but trust me, these have very different densities. 3 more questions to go. The next question is, what books do you want to reread this year? I don't necessarily have books that I want to reread this year, but I do have books that I want to reread in general. And so I'm going to tell you those because I don't necessarily have the urge to reread them this year specifically. The first one is, of course, let everyone say it with me, Funny Story by Emily Henry. That one, I fear, was very, very obvious. I also want to reread the Hunger Games series. I read this series for the first time in January of last year, and I'm already wanting to go back into it again. It was just so good. And I honestly think the next time I reread the Hunger Games, I'm going to read them in chronological order and not publishing order, just to see which one is better, and then I can let you guys know which one I preferred. I also want to reread the Chronicles of Narnia series by C.S. Lewis. This was one of my childhood favorite series, and I've only read all the way through it once. I've read every book multiple times except for The Last Battle. The Last Battle was so sad for me and so heartbreaking that I just have not gone back to it yet. So now that it's been years and I'm much older, I would be curious to read through them all again and see how much I like them now, and maybe even if I like The Last Battle a lot more than I did when I originally read it. Another book that I want to reread eventually, but I don't have with me, again, I loaned it to a friend, is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I love all of Abby Jimenez's books, but my 2 favorite by far are Yours Truly and Just for the Summer. And honestly, both of these books are books that I want to reread eventually. Again, since I just read these books last year, I don't necessarily think I'm going to be getting to them anytime soon, but they're definitely on my radar of books that I want to read again eventually. I also want to reread Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, even though I've only read the first one thus far, but I'm going to wait until I finish the rest of the series and then we'll talk about rereading from there. I would also love to reread the Harry Potter series again. I read this for the first time a couple years ago, and I'm obsessed with Harry Potter in a new way that I did not see coming because I already loved the movie so much, but having the knowledge of the books completely changed my perspectives on the movies, and I love them so much, especially Deathly Hallows. I think this one is probably my favorite in the series, even though it's the most heartbreaking. This book is so incredibly good. I love this series so much. And then lastly, eventually I do want to reread Project Hail Mary again. This is also by Andy Weir. He's slowly becoming one of my favorite authors. I just love this book so much. It is the book that got me into sci-fi again. It is almost one of my foundational favorite adult reads. What is a book that you enjoyed that had mixed reviews? Well, let me tell you. That was In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. There are a lot of people that think that the ending of this book was either predictable or anticlimactic, but I personally loved this book. It's one of my favorite mysteries or thrillers that I've read in a really long time. You guys know that I don't always rate thrillers super highly, but I rated this one like a 4.5 stars. I think the mix of the drama and also the mystery slash thriller part of it just made for a really, really excellent book, at least in my opinion. I haven't looked into other books that this author has written, but this is definitely the most popular book, and I think the Goodreads rating for this is like a 3.2 star or something like that. Like, it's not a super high overall average rating, but I think that this book was just so good. So if you like the Knives Out feel, if you love the mystery mixed in with the drama, this is definitely a book for you, and I highly recommend it. And then the last question is, what are some of your 5-star predictions for the rest of the year? I'm going to have to take a look at my cart to see what other books are coming to mind. But as of right now, one of my main predictions that I have is that Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, which is the second book in the series, is going to be a 5-star, or at least very close to a 5-star for me. This is also on my July TBR, so I'm planning on reading it in the next week or two, and I am so excited to read this book, like so excited to read this book. Also, all 3 of these that are on my 25 and 2025 list I think are going to be highly rated for me. The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, Six of Crows, and then also Dance of Thieves by Mary Pearson. My camera is overheating, so hopefully we get to finish this before it overheats. It is rather warm in here. Let me just take a quick look at my TBR cart. Honestly, this is a little bit off the wall again, but I think that Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte has the potential of being a 5-star just because Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre is probably one of my favorite classics of all time, if not my favorite classic of all time. So the idea that her sister wrote a book and it's just as beloved, this definitely has the potential of being 5-star. It's so hard to tell what is going to be a 5-star and what is not going to be a 5-star. So much of it has to do with where you're at in the moment when you read a book. So it's kind of hard to tell, but those are the ones that right now I'm thinking might be a 5-star. But that is all the questions that I have for the mid-year book tag. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please answer any of the questions down below with your answers of books that you've read so far this year, and I will see you guys next time.